The first thing I saw when I came home early was my wife's red dress lying on our bedroom floor. The second was my best friend's car parked behind the house. Then I heard my wife whisper through the half-open door, "Ryan, hurry. Michael isn't supposed to be back until tomorrow." I didn't scream. I didn't kick the door open. I stepped back, pulled out my phone, and started recording. Because after what I heard next, I realized their affair was only the beginning. Ryan laughed softly. "Once he signs those papers Monday, we're free." Claire lowered her voice. "And the money? It'll be gone before he understands what happened." I stood there in the hallway of the house I had spent 14 years paying for, listening to the two people I trusted most plan my destruction. My name is Michael Carter. I was 42 years old, married for 14 years, and the owner of a construction company I had built from a borrowed truck, a broken toolbox, and more 16-hour workdays than I could remember. Ryan had been my best friend for 11 years. When his father died, I paid 3 months of his mortgage. When he wanted to leave his old job, I made him my business partner. When my son Ethan was born, Ryan was waiting outside the hospital with a stuffed bear and tears in his eyes. I had called him family. Claire knew that. She was the one who had encouraged me to make Ryan my partner. "He's loyal to you," she used to say. That was the cruelest part. She had been lying long before I understood what the truth looked like. For months before that night, little things had been bothering me. Claire suddenly put a password on her phone. She began taking calls outside. She bought expensive dresses for work events, but never told me where they were held. And whenever I asked questions, she made me feel guilty for asking. "Michael, you're working too much. You're stressed. You don't trust me anymore." So I stopped asking. That was exactly what she wanted. 3 days before I came home early, I received a message from an unknown number. "If you want to know why your wife smiles when you leave, come home before midnight Thursday." No name, no explanation. At first, I thought it was a joke. Then I looked at Claire across the dinner table. She was smiling at something on her phone. When she noticed me watching, she immediately turned the screen over. My stomach tightened. I told her I had a 2-day business trip. She kissed me goodbye, but she didn't look sad, she looked relieved. So I drove away with a suitcase in my trunk. 2 miles from home, I turned around. I parked behind an abandoned warehouse and waited. At 8:12 p.m., Ryan's black BMW pulled into my driveway. At 8:14, Claire opened the door before he even knocked. She ran into his arms. I recorded everything. I could have confronted them then, but something inside me said, "Wait. People who think you're blind eventually show you everything." So I waited. At 10:37, I entered the house through the garage. Their voices were coming from upstairs. And that was when I heard the conversation about the papers. I quietly walked back outside. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my car. But I didn't drive away immediately. I sat there in the darkness and replayed the recording. "Once he signs those papers Monday, we're free, and the money. It'll be gone before he understands what happened." I had no idea what money Ryan was talking about, but by sunrise, I had an idea. I called Linda Morales, my accountant. Linda had worked for me for 9 years. She was the only person in my company who had access to every financial record. "Michael," she said when she answered, "aren't you on your trip? I need you to check something." "What?" "Every payment Ryan approved during the last 2 years." There was silence. Then Linda said, "Why?" "Because I think someone is stealing from me." We met at a coffee shop instead of the office. Linda brought a laptop and a folder. She looked nervous. "Michael, I found some strange transactions." She turned the screen toward me. The first was for $14,800, a consulting fee. Then another for $22,000. Then $31,500. The payments went to different companies, but something about them felt wrong. Linda had checked the addresses. Most of them led to empty offices, virtual mailboxes, or businesses that barely existed. "How much?" I asked. Linda looked down. "Nearly $700,000. I couldn't speak. "Over how long?" 22 months. I stared at the screen. Ryan had been stealing from me for almost 2 years. But there was something worse. Linda opened another file. "The transfers were approved using your digital authorization." My heart stopped. I didn't approve them. "I know." "Then how?" She showed me the login records. Someone had used my credentials from inside the office. Ryan knew my passwords. Ryan knew my habits. Ryan knew when I traveled, he hadn't just stolen money. He had made it look like I had approved everything myself. If the fraud was discovered, the investigation would begin with me. That was their plan. I did my company. Blame me. Take control while I fought to prove my innocence. Then leave with the money. And Claire would divorce me after I lost everything. I wanted to call the police. Linda stopped me. "Not yet." I looked at her. "What? If Ryan has been doing this for 2 years, we need to know if there's more." She was right. So I did the hardest thing I had ever done. I went home. Claire opened the door. "Michael, you're back." I smiled. My meeting ended early. She hugged me. I hugged her back. For 1 second, I wondered if she could feel my heart breaking. Then she looked at me and said, "I missed you." I answered, "Me too." That night, I lay beside my wife and stared at the ceiling. She fell asleep in minutes. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, Ryan walked into my office. He shook my hand. "Good to have you back." I looked directly into his eyes. "Good to be back." He smiled. I smiled too. And that was the moment I made my decision. I would not confront them. Not yet. I would let them think I was exactly where they wanted me. Over the next week, I hired a private investigator named Marcus Reed, former financial crimes investigator. Kyokit Patadan, the kind of man who noticed things other people missed. I gave him Ryan's name, then Claire's. "I don't want guesses," I told him. "I want proof." 3 days later, Marcus returned with photographs. Ryan and Claire meeting at hotels. Ryan entering my house when I was out of town. Claire visiting a bank with him. And then Marcus found something I never expected. Ryan wasn't working alone. The lawyer handling my company's refinancing had met him 3 times after midnight. His name was Richard, and he was Claire's older brother. I stared at the photographs. My wife, my best friend, my brother-in-law, 3 people sitting at my dinner table on Christmas, 3 people laughing with me, 3 people planning to bury me. Marcus placed another photograph on the desk. "What's this?" I asked. Ryan and Richard. They were leaving a restaurant. When? Last Thursday, the same night I had supposedly been on a business trip. My stomach dropped. "Find out everything." Marcus nodded. "What about your wife?" I looked at the photograph of Claire. "Don't let her know." The next evening, Claire brought up the refinancing papers. "Ryan thinks you should sign them soon." I looked up from dinner. "Does he?" She smiled. "The company needs it. What do you think?" "I think you should trust him." I nearly laughed. Instead, I reached for my wine. "You're right?" Her eyes lit up. "Really? Ryan has always looked out for me." Claire smiled. I smiled back. And in that moment, I saw the truth clearly. She didn't love me anymore. Maybe she once had. Maybe she never did. But now she was waiting for me to fall. So I gave her exactly what she wanted. The next day, I called Ryan. "Bring the papers." He arrived too quickly. Claire came to the office too, pretending she had lunch nearby. They both wanted to watch. Ryan placed the documents in front of me. "Once you sign these, we can finally stabilize everything." I read every page slowly. Ryan looked impatient. Claire looked nervous. I picked up the pen. Ryan leaned forward. Then I signed. Claire released a breath. Ryan smiled. Neither of them knew the truth. The documents were copies. My real lawyer, not Richard, had examined the originals. The version I signed had one small change. The clause that would give Ryan control of my company was gone. Legally, my signature gave them nothing, but I wanted them to believe I had stepped into their trap. That belief made them careless, and 3 days later, they made their biggest mistake. Linda called me at 6:40 a.m. Michael, there's a transfer happening right now. How much? 250,000. To where? One of the companies we flagged. Can you stop it? I can delay it. Don't. She went silent. What? Let it go through. Michael, I said, let it go through. Marcus was listening from the passenger seat. I had picked him up 30 minutes earlier. He looked at me. You're sure? No. But I knew something. Ryan believed I had signed the refinancing papers. He believed I had no idea about the fraud. And now he thought he had access to enough money to disappear. I wanted to know where he would go. That morning, Ryan called me. Michael, we have a problem. I kept my voice calm. What happened? The bank flagged some transfers. Should I be worried? There was a pause. Then Ryan said, No, I'm handling it. Of course he was. At noon, Marcus called. Ryan's at the airport. With Claire? Yes. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. Where are they going? Paris. I almost laughed. They were running, and they still believed I knew nothing. But Marcus had already contacted my attorney. My attorney had already notified federal investigators. The bank transfer was delayed just long enough for investigators to track the destination account. Ryan's biggest transfer had become the evidence we needed. That evening, I went home. Claire was gone. Her closet was half empty. The safe was open. And my wedding photograph had been turned face down. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel it. I sat on the floor. 14 years. Gone. Not because of one affair. Because of hundreds of choices. Every lie. Every secret meeting. Every dollar. Every time she looked at me and pretended. Then I heard the front door open. I looked up. Claire stood there. She had forgotten her passport. She froze when she saw me. I slowly stood. Going somewhere? Her face turned white. I can explain. No. She reached for the passport on the table. I picked it up first. Where's Ryan? She didn't answer. I stepped closer. Where is he? Her voice cracked. I don't know. I held up my phone. Claire, don't lie to me again. She looked at the screen. Marcus had sent me a photograph. Ryan and Claire at the airport 2 hours earlier. Claire closed her eyes. He left without me. That surprised me. What? He got a call. He panicked. He said the plan had changed. I stared at her. She started crying. He took my passport first. Then he gave it back and said I was too much of a risk. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the recording. How much do I get? I asked her. Did you know? She looked away. About the money? Yes, I knew some of it. How much? I don't know. Claire. Fine, she shouted. I knew Ryan was moving money. I didn't know every detail. Did you know he was planning to blame me? She said nothing. That was my answer. My chest went cold. You knew. Tears ran down her face. I was scared. No. You were greedy. She slapped me. It wasn't hard, but the sound filled the room. For 1 second, we both stood there in shock. Then I slowly touched my cheek. Claire whispered, I'm sorry. I looked at her. No, Shai stepped back. Michael, don't say sorry because you got caught. At that exact moment, my phone rang. Marcus, I answered. Where is he? Marcus took a breath. Ryan's plane never left. I looked at Claire. What happened? Federal agents boarded before departure. I closed my eyes, finally. It was over. Or so I thought. The next morning, Ryan asked to speak to me. My lawyer advised against it. I went anyway. We sat in an interview room. Ryan looked smaller, older. For the first time in 11 years, he didn't smile. I didn't want it to go this far, he said. I laughed. You stole $700,000. He looked down. I was going to pay you back. With what? He didn't answer. Then he looked at me. Claire loved you once. I felt nothing. She loved you too. Ryan smiled bitterly. No, Claire loves whoever makes her feel safe. I stood. Then he said something that stopped me. Ask her about the account. I turned around. What account? Ryan leaned back. The one she opened without me. I walked out. An hour later, Marcus confirmed it. Claire had another account, not connected to Ryan, not connected to my company. She had been moving money for months, nearly $90,000. Money from Ryan. Money she had quietly hidden from him. She had planned to betray the man she was betraying me with. I sat in my car for a long time after hearing that. And then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because suddenly I understood the entire situation. Ryan thought he was smarter than me. Claire thought she was smarter than Ryan. And both of them thought I was the easiest person in the room to manipulate. They had been so busy betraying each other that they never noticed me watching. The investigation lasted months. Ryan was charged with fraud, theft, and conspiracy. Richard lost his law license after investigators discovered his role in the refinancing scheme. Claire cooperated with the investigations, not because she suddenly found a conscience, because her lawyer told her it might reduce the consequences. I filed for divorce. I didn't fight her. I didn't scream. I didn't try to destroy her. I gave my lawyers the evidence and walked away. The company survived, barely. I had to sell one property. I had to let several employees go. That part hurt more than losing money. Those people trusted me. They had families. And Ryan had almost destroyed all of it. But slowly, I rebuilt, one client at a time, one project at a time, one honest day at a time. The hardest part was Ethan. He was 12 years old. He knew his parents were separating, but he didn't know why. One evening, he sat beside me on the couch. Dad? Yeah? Did Mom do something bad? I looked at him. There are moments when being a father means carrying pain so your child doesn't have to. So I said, Mom made some choices that hurt our family. Did she hurt you? I took a breath. Yes. Are you angry? I thought about Ryan in handcuffs, Claire crying, the empty closet, the recording, all of it. Not anymore. He looked confused. Why? Because being angry at someone who already lost your trust is like holding a burning piece of coal. He thought about that. Then he asked, Does it hurt? Yes. Then why hold it? I smiled. That's exactly what I finally understood. Months later, Claire came to see me, not to ask for money, not to ask me to take her back. She just wanted to apologize. We sat across from each other at a quiet cafe. She looked different, not beautiful or ugly, just tired. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she said. I nodded. That's true. She swallowed. I think about what I did every day. I looked out the window. For a long time, I thought revenge meant making you suffer. She looked at me. Do you hate me? I shook my head. No, that seemed to hurt her more. I don't hate you, Claire. Then, what do you feel? I finally looked her in the eyes. Nothing I need to carry anymore. She started crying. I stood, and before I left, I said one last thing. You had everything you said you wanted. A family, a home, someone who trusted you. Her face crumpled. And you threw it away for someone who was planning to throw you away too. I walked out. I never looked back. A year later, Ethan and I moved into a smaller house near the lake. The company was doing well again, not as big as before, but healthier, more secure. I no longer gave blind trust to anyone. One Saturday morning, Ethan and I were sitting on the back porch. He looked at the water and asked me something. Dad, who won? I smiled. What do you mean? You know, you and Mom, you and Ryan, everything. I thought about it. Then I said, nobody wins when a family breaks. He looked disappointed, but if you mean who got the last word. He waited. I put my hand on his shoulder. Me. His eyes widened. What did you say? I smiled. Nothing. But I knew the last word wasn't something I said to Ryan. It wasn't something I said to Claire. It was the life I built after them. They planned for me to lose my company. I rebuilt it. They planned for me to lose my home. I found a better one. They planned for me to lose my peace. I took it back. And that was the one thing neither of them could steal. Sometimes revenge isn't yelling. Sometimes it isn't making someone cry. Sometimes the strongest revenge is standing in the ruins they created, looking at everything you lost, and deciding, I'm still here. Ryan thought stealing from me would make him powerful. Claire thought betraying me would make her free. In the end, both of them lost the person they believed would never stop trusting them, me, and I finally learned the lesson they taught me at the highest possible price. Trust is expensive. Some people can't afford it. But I could. And this time, I was much more careful about who I gave it to.